Hello everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the weekly report. The debate should be a wake-up call for Americans. There were plenty of surprises in last week's presidential debate. For one, Americans who rely on the mainstream media for their news learned that they had been lied to for the past 3 years about President Biden's capability to do the job he was elected to do. The realization that the media has been lying for years about Biden is a positive development, as hopefully thoughtful Americans might begin wondering what else the media has been lying about. For example, they will find out that the media has been lying to them for years about Russia and Ukraine and about the Middle East and elsewhere. They will find out that our hyper-interventionist foreign policy does not make us safer and more free, but the opposite. Unfortunately, for most Americans, foreign policy is something that happens over there, with few direct effects back home. Dumping nearly $200 billion into the lost cause called Ukraine may at most seem like an annoyance to many Americans, but it's not like they are being snatched up by gangs of military recruiters and sent to the front line as is happening to Ukraine men. However, $200 billion is real money, and the effect of our economy is also real. The bill will be paid for by each American family indirectly through the inflation tax. Each dollar created out of thin air and spent on the Ukraine debacle devalues the rest of the dollars in circulation. The danger posed by our foreign policy seems to escape both candidates, who each tried to convince us they were tougher than the other. Despite Donald Trump's sober and accurate warning that Joe Biden has taken us to the brink of World War III, his solution to the problem is doing more of the same. His stated foreign policy seems to be that were he in office, the rest of the world would not dare do anything against his will. He would have been so tough that Russian President Vladimir Putin would never have dared to invade Ukraine, he claimed. He would have been so tough that Hamas would never have dared attack Israel on October 7th. It's only Joe Biden's weakness that leads to these disastrous foreign policy outcomes. But the world does not work that way. Decades of U.S. sanctions placed on any country that fails to do what Washington demands have backfired and led to the emergence of a bloc of countries that united in their resistance to American dictates. Being tough on less powerful countries may work, until it doesn't. That's where we are today. Neither candidate seems to realize that the world has changed. I have always said that real strength in foreign policy comes from restraint. To prevent these bad outcomes everywhere, stop intervening everywhere. It is not toughness that would have prevented Russia from taking action against Ukraine. It's restraint. Not launching a coup in Ukraine in 2014 would have prevented the disastrous war in Ukraine. Just like not stirring up trouble in the South China Sea would prevent a war with China. Not continuing to occupy and intervene in the Middle East would prevent a major regional war, which might include Iran and other big players in the region. Restraint is the real toughness. Non-intervention is the only foreign policy that will keep us safe and free. We've tried it in other ways and it does not work. Let's try something different. Thanks for listening.